The Drabkins were a good example of this revolutionary principle. Yelizaveta's father, whose real name was Yakov Drabkin, had joined Lenin's Social Democrats as a schoolboy in 1895. Her mother, Feodosia, was an important agent, Natasha, in the party's underground, who took her daughter along as a foil on the frequent trips she made to Helsinki, to purchase ammunition for the revolutionaries in St. Petersburg. The dynamite and cartridges were smuggled back in a bag containing Yelizaveta's toys. After the abortive revolution of 1905, Yelizaveta's parents were driven into hiding by the Tsar's police. The 5-year-old girl went to live with her grandfather in Rostov, where she remained until the February Revolution of 1917, when all the revolutionaries were released by the newly installed Provisional Government. The Provisional Government was formed by liberals and moderate socialists to steer the country through to the end of the First World War and the democratic election of a constituent assembly. Its political authority soon collapsed, however, as workers, peasants, and soldiers formed their own local revolutionary committees, the Soviets in particular, to carry out a radical social revolution. It was in the name of the Soviets that Lenin's Bolsheviks seized power in October 1917. The Bolsheviks, who numbered about 350,000 members on the eve of their insurrection, represented the revolutionary arm of the Social Democratic Marxist Party, whose moderate wing, the Mensheviks, supported the Provisional Government. In March 1918, the Bolsheviks renamed themselves the Russian Communist Party. Yelizaveta was reunited with her mother in Petrograd, as St. Petersburg was then called. She joined the Bolshevik Party, became a machine gunner in the Red Guards, took part in the storming of the Winter Palace during the Bolshevik seizure of power on the 25th of October, and was hired as a secretary to Yakov Sverdlov, chief party organizer of the Bolsheviks. The job brought her to the Smolny, where her father, Gusev, worked. The Bolsheviks, in power, urged their rank and file to follow the example of the revolutionaries in Tsarist Russia, who had sacrificed their personal happiness and renounced their families to serve the working class. There were plenty of examples to choose from, such as Alexandre Fadaev, the father of the future writer who left his wife and 3 children to dedicate himself to the people's cause in 1905, or Lyubia Radchenko, who left her husband and their 2 young daughters because, as she put it in her diary, it was the duty of the true revolutionary not to be tied down by a family. They made a cult of the selfless revolutionary, constructing a new morality in which all the old commandments were superseded by the single principle of service to the party and its cause. In their utopian vision, the revolutionary activist was the prototype of a new kind of human being, a collective personality living only for the common good, who would populate the future communist society. Many socialists saw the creation of this human type as the fundamental goal of the revolution. The new structure of political life demands from us a new structure of the soul, wrote Maxim Gorky in the spring of 1917. For the Bolsheviks, the radical realization of the collective personality involved blowing up the shell of private life. To allow a distinction between private life and public life, maintained Lenin's wife, Nadezhda Krupskaya, will lead sooner or later to the betrayal of communism. According to the Bolsheviks, the idea of private life as separate from the realm of politics was nonsensical, for politics affected everything. There was nothing in a person's so-called private life that was not political. The personal sphere should thus be subject to public supervision and control. Private spaces beyond the state's control were regarded by the Bolsheviks as dangerous breeding grounds for counter-revolutionaries who had to be exposed and rooted out. Yelizaveta rarely saw her father after their encounter. They were both preoccupied with revolutionary activities. After 1917, Yelizaveta continued to work in Sverdlov's office. During the